أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'd like to welcome all the fathers and mothers who have registered for our online webinar today titled Faith-Based Homeschooling. And to start off, I would like to recite a dua. The instructor today is Sister Sajida Somji, and she has picked this wonderful dua from Sahifa Sajadiya. It's dua number 25, titled His Supplication for His Children. And it kind of aligns with today's program. So I will recite the translation. It goes, "O God, be kind to me through the survival of my children, setting them right for me and allowing me to enjoy them. My God, make long their lives for me, increase their terms, bring up the smallest for me, strengthen the weakest for me, rectify for me their bodies, their religious dedication, and their moral traits, make them well in their souls, their limbs, and everything that concerns me of their affair, and pour out for me and upon my hand their provisions. Make them pious, fearing, insightful, hearing, and obedient toward you, loving and well-disposed towards your friends, and stubbornly resistant and full of hate toward all your enemies. Ameen." Can I have a salawat, please? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. So our homeschooling seminar or webinar for tonight is faith-based homeschooling. This webinar will discuss integrating religious education in daily learning and show how Islam can be celebrated and appreciated throughout the learning that takes place in homeschooling. Our speaker today is Sister Sajida Somji. She is a mother of 4 who is currently homeschooling her 14-year-old, her 9-year-old, and her 7-year-old. From day one, she has been homeschooling them. She's a certified teacher from kindergarten to grade 10, ESL, special ed. Sajida is a curriculum writer for Islamic studies and content creator for Shia channels. Sajida has been a principal of Al-Hadi Madrasa and my personal mentor. And I would like to welcome her to take over. And while she's presenting, feel free to write your comments in the chat, and we will make sure everything gets answered.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وقل ربي زدني علما. Thank you, Shalina, for that introduction. And can you just tell me quickly if you can see the full screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so you guys all, when you registered, you were asked if you have any questions. And I think there were 13 questions sent in. And they kind of fell into very large categories, like there were similar questions. So I lumped them together, and each slide, inshallah, will answer the questions that were asked. If I run out of time, then I will be stopped at that point. And then inshallah, you can ask those questions that I didn't cover during question time. So the first question, and there were quite a few who asked this question, and those were about how to instill faith in our children, how to not just teach Islam as a subject, there was somebody who said, I have a 12 and a 14-year-old, and give me some advice about instilling faith in such a way that, when they grow up, you're not afraid that they will go astray. They'll be have that self-discipline themselves. So all those are going to be answered in this slide, inshallah. So instilling faith, I think it starts before birth in who you choose as a spouse, and then going on to when the children do arrive, how you live daily. If you are waiting until we used to say 14, but I think now it's probably, with people having phones all the time, including kids, around 12-ish is the time when it's really hard to change them. So if you waited until they are 12 and now you want to change them, it's really hard. But if you haven't and you have young children, then this is a very, very good time to work on them, inshallah. So some of the things that have worked for me are to be deliberate in your words. So, for example, using positive words all the time and bringing in Allah all the time into your life. Sometimes we tell them, I don't like it when you're dirty, or this is dirty. Instead of saying it that way, we can say things like, Allah loves it when we are clean, so let's clean up. Or remind them of Allah's beautiful names. Allah is Ar-Ra'uf, Allah is Wadud, Allah is merciful, things like this. Remind them that Allah has beautiful names, so we should also copy and manifest those names in our daily lives. Role model, being Ahlul Bayt centered, bring Ahlul Bayt into conversations, their stories, bring Allah into your conversations all the time. There seems to be kind of a misconception in the sense that we often think that you teach Islamic studies like they do in school or like they do in madrasa, and in homeschooling you have a subject where you teach Islamic studies. But Islamic studies is taught all the time in my home, for example. So I'll give you an example. This is called seizing teaching moments. So we were praying Jamaat a few weeks ago, and I don't know, in between the two salah, one of my Ali asked me, he's 9, he's almost 9, he asked me something to do with traveling, or I don't even remember the exact stuff, and we started discussing GPS and how GPS helps you, and in the past there were maps and all that, and then it morphed into, there is a fish who is a GPS in the Quran, and how that GPS fish guided, when Prophet Musa went to meet Nabi Khidr, and that whole thing turned into a whole Prophet Musa, Nabi Khidr story, and how the fish jumped into the sea and showed them the direction, and it had nothing to do with that, but you went into that. So you always seize teaching moments and use stories, because they are very powerful for teaching. I have found that purifying your niyyah is very, very important. We always think of them as our kids, but they're not ours. They are entrusted to us by Allah. And when we look at it in that way, it changes our mindset and how we will raise them. And we have to remember that both our goal and their goal is to be the abd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is why when we talk about the Prophet, we call him first the Abd of Allah, because this is our goal in life, to be the best, Abd of Allah, to worship Allah, and to basically gain yaqeen from our worship, inshallah. The walking the talk is really important. A lot of us know this instinctively, because we've been kids once upon a time, and if we were told by someone to do something and they themselves were not doing it, you just think in your head, okay, you're not doing it, so why you're telling me? And so instinctively, I think all of us know that this is important. Before the 60s, if you look at a lot of educational theory, like Freud and Jung and Seeger and all these guys, they used to think that imitation by kids will only happen if there is reward or punishment. So they thought reinforcement is what makes kids, or even human beings, imitate others. But in 1961, there was a psychologist called Bandura who did a Bobodol experiment, which really, till today, that experiment really changed people's mind in the educational field. And his theory is called socialization theory. And what he learned is, so he put kids, it was a very good experiment, like psychologically speaking, that experiment was so well done that subsequent to his experiment, people could do the same experiment to see if they could repeat his responses. What he learned, could they repeat it? He himself was able to repeat it in 1963 and 65. And subsequent to that, a lot of researchers have been able to replicate what he found out. And that was that, so he put He had 72 participants and he put them in 3 rooms. So first he would put them in a room where there was an adult in the corner playing with a tinker toy, and then that adult continued to build with a tinker toy. So that was one group, and there were some males, some females. Sometimes the adult was male, sometimes the adult was female. And then he would take these kids to a second room where there were other toys, and when they were about to play with that toy, they were told you can't play with this toy. So they were frustrated. They were made to be frustrated, and then they were taken to a third room, and then in this third room they were given toys again and observed from a one-way mirror, and the observers would write down what they would do. And this was one aspect. The second aspect was the adult in the room was given a tinker toy, but there was also a bobo doll, which is like an inflatable doll. And halfway through playing with the tinker toy, the adult would start beating up this doll and saying really nasty things to the doll and saying, I'm going to punch you, and bam, and stuff like that, and really kicking and punching the doll. And the kid was in their corner playing with their toy. And then again, they were taken to a second room. They were frustrated there. And then they were taken to a third room, and they were given another set of toys, including a bobo doll was in that set. And then they were observed. And what observation came out of that was that the kids who had seen the adult hitting also hit. They was a very, very high correlation with the kids who saw hitting doing the same thing, except they took it to a new level. So they would even pick up the toy gun and point it to the bobo doll and say, pew pew, I'm going to kill you, and this kind of stuff, which the adult had never done. And these were 3 to 6 year olds. Boys were more likely to be physically aggressive when they saw males being aggressive, and female children were more likely to be verbally aggressive when they saw the females being aggressive. So it was an eye-opening, and from then a lot of psychology, educational psychology, believes that it does not matter if you reinforce the action with a reward or a punishment. What matters is what they see at home. So whether you are doing that, or they're reading books like that, or watching videos like that in our time, or playing video games like that, they will repeat and do what you do. So the walk the talk is very, very important. Psychologists have also checked DNA, and imitation is hardwired in human beings. We have mirror neurons which will fire when somebody's doing an act. So when I'm doing an act, that the neuron will fire, and then when I watch someone doing that same act, my mirror neuron will fire as if I'm doing the act. And then when we look at Quran, it also teaches us the same thing. Allah never sent us just a Quran, He sent us role models. Every revelation that was sent with a role model, which was sent with a prophet, and we're given the Ahlul Bayt, because role modeling is very important for human beings. So our children learn a lot through role modeling. So be careful who their friends are, be careful what you do at home, be positive. That's where the first 3 items came about. Be Allah conscious, be Ahlul Bayt centered, be deliberate in your words, because even if you think they are not listening, they really are. And COVID showed me that. We would listen to majalis at home, and they're sitting on the sofa, they're building a toy and whatever. And I'm like thinking, okay, you're definitely not watching this majlis or listening. But they actually were listening, because they would tell me stuff, and I'm like, how? Like, you definitely were listening, and I thought you weren't. So they do listen, and they do see what you're doing, and therefore walk the talk. In the end, you have to remember that there's no guarantees. So they are an amana to you. You do your best, but there's no guarantees. And we know examples in the Quran, like Nabi Adam and Bibi Hawa had 2 boys raised by the same parents, but one, his niyyah was not clean, and the other one, his niyyah was very clean, and one decided to kill the other. And they came from the same stomach. and they were raised in the same home, and their parent was a prophet. So it's the effort that counts. We have the story of Nabi Nuh's kid, Laysa min Ahli, and then Nabi Yaqub's 12 boys, and the 11, or maybe the 10, maybe not Benjamin, but the 10 were very mean to Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. These aren't just stories. Allah puts stories in the Quran to teach us. And so it is your effort that counts, but then there's no guarantees. When they get to a certain age, like, from our own lives, when we go to a certain age, we make our own decisions. Very, very important, I have found, is to always, always do dua. Don't disregard the value and the power of dua, because we are told even for the very tiniest of things, you have to supplicate. I believe it was Nabi Musa who was told by Allah, even pray to me to help fix your sandal when your sandal is broken, and teach your kids to supplicate. So Shelina recited dua number 25, but if you look at dua number 24, which is the dua for parents, you will see that Imam Sajjad in that dua is asking Allah to give him ilham, which means inspiration. So Allah said, Imam Sajjad says to Allah, give me inspiration so I know how to be with my parents and how to fulfill their rights. So inspiration is something you can pray for even in raising your children, not in just how you will be with your parents. And then if you look at Imam Sajjad's dua number 25, I found these stood out to me. He prayed for us to be able to rectify their bodies, their religious dedication, and their moral traits. So I think these are the three things we need to look at when we are raising our children and homeschooling them. And then make them obedient towards you. So that's something we have to teach them. Make them loving and well disposed towards your friends. So we have to teach them to love Ahlul Bayt and to love the Quran, and live a very Quran-centered life and a very, very Ahlul Bayt-centered life. And then teach them to be stubbornly resistant towards your enemies. And later, in a longer version of the dua, he talks about even how to part of the people that make up enemies is not the people but the jinn. The shaitan is the enemy too. So you have to teach them how to resist enemies, the shayateen amongst the men, the jinn and ins. And then I really liked when he said, allowing me to enjoy them. So he's praying to Allah that let me enjoy my children. And sometimes I think we forget, we're so stressed and anxious and wondering if we're doing the right thing that we forget to enjoy them. So enjoy them. They are the most amazing thing ever in the whole wide world. So the other question that was asked was, a lot of the questions were about homeschooling routine. And how do I set up my routine, and what do I do, and timetable and whatever, all these things. So I've put them all in one. There's 2 pages that are going to cover that. And so this slide is about what you should not do. So no, it's not a one size fits all. It's personal and it differs from everyone. Some people are, for example, morning people. So they want to wake up first thing in the morning, 9 o'clock you have your breakfast, and then by 12 you're done school. Some people, like me, will start school in the afternoon. After Zohar, Asr, Salah, I start school with my kids. So it depends how you and your family are, and then you work around that. You don't need a long time to teach them. It's not like regular school. They don't have recess and they don't have lunch, and then they do have lunch, but their lunch can be whatever you set. There's no set time where they have to go to the lunchroom to eat lunch, for example. There's no set time when they have to do recess or gym or art, or it's your day. It's so much barakah to homeschool. I'm not kidding. So it takes 2 to 3 hours maximum per day to homeschool up to grade 6, and about 4 hours in grade 7 to 8, and then high school, I'm guessing, is longer. But my kid is now going to go, the 14-year-old is going to go to school, high school now. So I'll report to you, inshallah, next time when I talk to you about that. It's not rigid. There's a lot of flexibility. So for example, Muharram, this year was in summer. But Muharram, you can take off and you can. So, for example, before summer hit, we went for a 5 week vacation. We don't do many vacations, but when we do really long ones. So, we went for 5 weeks. So, in May and June, we were gone. So, they lost those 5 weeks of school. So, summer was off for us. We actually did school in summer. My kids didn't think it was fair, but it's my school. I can do whatever I want. You can do school at night in Ramadan if your kids are fasting, for example. You know, if you have sick days, sometimes if you took a whole day to do a sick day thing, then the 4 days a week that you have remaining, you can do an extra half an hour, an extra hour of school to catch up. So there's a lot of flexibility built in because you're not responsible, you're not answerable to anybody. This is your school, your home, your children, and you're doing it your way. There's no report cards, no essays to mark. The reason being, so a report card is made by a teacher because a parent is not in the classroom. So when I make a report card, I'm reporting to the parent, this is what your kid did, this is where they didn't do so well, this is where they did great, and this is where their behavior needs work. But if I'm with them the whole day and they're doing school with me, and I'm the one doing school with them and I'm the parent, I have no report card. Unless the mom's homeschooling and dad wants a report card, then you can verbally let the dad know. But there's no formal report card, alhamdulillah. You don't have to teach every subject or copy school. And I'll explain this in a bit, but let's just go to the next one. And you don't need to know everything to teach, okay? You don't have to buy specific furniture or decor. When they were little, I used to go and buy, some stuff for the wall, like the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s, and would put it on in the room they were studying in. But it's not necessary, and you can even make that at home. Make them make it and then hang it on the wall. Not all screen time is bad. Okay, so you can use screen time, for example, if for that GPS thing that day when we did the GPS, the fish, they wanted to know, there was a follow-up question on when was the first printing press made and when was the first human beings who started writing. So I thought it was hieroglyphics, but I was not 100% sure. So I said, okay, you know what? After we pray the next namaz, we will watch on YouTube and go see on YouTube and check. And we did our homework and we found some really cool, YouTube videos to teach us about hieroglyphics and the printing press. So screen time, if it's, used well, it's a good thing. And then there is no need to compare your kids. This thing, even in school, when I was a teacher, it would be always, I would actually be told, even when I was a principal in madrasa, I would be told, why don't you do rankings? And I'm like, why do you want me to do rankings? Why do you have the need to compare your children? You compare your child to their rubric. You don't compare your child to another kid. What does it matter about the other kid? So you also do not fall into that trap of comparing your children. Don't say, oh my God, I'm homeschooling and my kid can't read in grade 1 yet. And that kid who's going to, that expensive Montessori school can read when they're 4. That's okay. You don't have to worry about that. If your kid is in grade 6 and not reading, okay, start getting worried. If your kid is in grade 4 and not reading, yes, start getting worried. But if your kid is grade 1 and 2 and still getting there in the reading, don't compare them with the other kids out there. Not everybody is the same. So you don't have to know everything to teach. When we discuss the curriculum, I'll come to that. Also, you don't have to copy school. That's because the core curriculum that you have to teach from grade 1 to 6, I would say the most important thing that is foundational. So when I was teaching the Ontario curriculum, let's say if you missed my class for 6 years and you joined in grade 7, for example, the only thing you would fall back on would be reading, writing, and math, because grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, science does not build up on the previous year. Neither does social studies build up on the previous year. No, neither does art, neither does phys ed, neither does geography, neither does history. None of these are all standalone. So, for example, in history, I might have missed the printing, or not the printing, the mint, the Royal Canadian Mint, that section that talks about our coin and our money. Next year, I don't need to know that, for example, when I'm covering the native Canadians and how, the settlers came here and all that stuff. So nothing builds up. Yes, I might have some parts of my own geography or history that's missing in my head that I can catch up on later, but it won't affect my next year. However, in math, everything builds up. So you will suffer if you haven't caught up on math. Same with language. You have to be able to read and write, otherwise you'll suffer. Science, again, you would be shocked, but science does not build up on anything until high school is when everything builds up. But I would say if you tell yourself that I really, really need to teach language and math really well up to grade 4, and then add science and social studies, a few subjects, a few topics of that, you will be fine. So the way I tell a lot of parents is, look at it this way: you have 6 years to teach a certain number of things. Don't look at it like, oh my God, I have to finish this one textbook in this 1 year, because then when you do that, you really stress out. Just tell yourself that for math, and yes, for language, they should know how to read and comprehend things and be able to write by the time they're in grade 2, 3. So don't stress yourself out by having a very strict curriculum and a pile of textbooks and you have to finish all of these. Because if you do that, you will not enjoy homeschooling, and you don't need to do that. For the other stuff, for routine, it is better to have a specific area in your home where you homeschool. And you can change that area sometimes, to give them like, okay, today we are going to go do art in the living room, for example, or on the dining table. But it almost like when you keep a specific area for homeschooling, when you enter, it gives that ambiance. Okay, it's time for school, time to get serious. Let's sit down, let's do school. Kids love routine, and kids love to have, that they know that when I go here and I go at this time, it's school time. They like that routine. So it helps to have that. Is it wajib to have that? No, but it helps. Now you need to know what's your family style. So there are some people who are very organized. Like when you plan a trip, you will be organized to the T, and you'll know exactly what hour you'll go to which. And then there are people like me who have no clue what they're going to do, in the next hour. Even when we traveling to Turkey, for example, I have no clue. They just go with the flow kind of people. So if you're the kind of go with the flow person, and then you try to impose organization on yourself, you're gonna fail and hate the whole thing. And if you're a very organized person and you say, okay, I'm just gonna fly by the seat of my pants, that kind of thing, then you won't enjoy that either. There are some people who like to clean up after every lesson, some people who will clean up at the end of the week, some people who are morning people, some who are evening people, afternoon people. So know your family style and go according to that. Yes, you do need to figure out your child's learning style and tailor your teaching to that. This I find really important. So, for example, I have one kid who loves to fidget. Like, he will literally be fidgeting. He will be learning spelling whilst he's walking around, fidgeting up and down, jumping around. Quran is learned that way. Reading, writing is learned that way. Everything is learned that way. Then there's one kid who likes to just sit, finish, and he's done, and Kudafis, he leaves. So you have to tailor your teaching to that. There are some people who want you to show them how to write for it. So you do modeled writing for them. There are some people who audiovisual, so you can explain stuff to them and they will get it. And some of your kids will differ from subject to subject. So for example, one of my child loves math and he hates language, truly hates language. It's like pulling teeth to do language. But math, you tell him even do 4 lessons, he'll do it in half an hour and he's done. So his learning style when he's learning math is very different from his learning style when he's learning language, even though it's the same kid. So their learning style differs even from subject to subject. And yes, you can have your child doing different grade levels. So, for example, that math kid of mine is half a year ahead, but he's half a year behind in language. So that's okay, and that's the whole point of homeschooling, because it's very moldable and very very specific to each child. You're not teaching 30 kids and trying to teach to the middle. You are actually teaching your own kids, and you can have them kind of guide how far they can go and how fast based on their ability. So it's very important that you're hands-on and you observe them, because otherwise it's going to be hard for you to know their learning style, at least in the beginning. It's good to know what kind of general education approach you prefer. And you don't have to do all the research into each one, but you kind of sort of will know what really gets you. So there is the classical style, for example, is completely liberal arts based education. Then there is traditional, like textbooks and school, and you do each language. Then there's the Charlotte Mason one. This one is a Christian, originally a Christian one, but you can make it Islamic, of course. And they do a lot of living books and nature. Then there's Waldorf, which is very play based, very imagination based. They hate testing, like they won't do standardized testing too much. Then there's Montessori, and Montessori is different from Waldorf. Some people mix it up. Montessori is very hands-on practical stuff. Is good for, there was one lady who, I'll talk later about that. There was a lady who asked me about her 2.5-year-old kid. So that's a good one for that person. Then there's I think I spelled that wrong. It's supposed to be Reggio Emilia. It's very collaborative learning, anti-injustice kind of education. Then there's unschooling, which is where your child decides what they learn and how they learn it. Then there's virtual school, which is they're learning online in some subjects or all subjects, but they're sitting at home doing it on a screen. And then there's an eclectic one where it's a combination of styles. And you will figure this out by just slowly teaching them and learning which way really suits your way. You might even mix it up in some, let's say you might do Montessori in some, but do very traditional in some, inside your home with the same kid, and that's fine too. And then what is really important is read a lot. The whole family should be reading, but especially the teacher who's the teacher, the main teacher, whether it's the dad or the mom, they should definitely be reading a lot and showing that they love reading to the child, having a reading time, and then discussing the news. You have no clue how many times Donald Trump's name comes up in our dining table. So yeah, discuss the news too. There was another question, and that was this is a big question that a lot of homeschooler early on are asked. They're worried about this, that how will my kid develop socially? And social development you don't have to send them to school to be socially developed. You can be socially developed by homeschooling co-ops and support group like this ALI we go on field trips together, and then you can send them to participate in extracurricular activities. It can be soccer, swimming, whatever, art, there's coding, there's robotics, there's so many things that are out there. There's community service and volunteering. For example, there are options for Al Hadi Madrasa, where you can, for example, volunteer to teach someone Quran who is younger than you, or you can go teach reading to kids. There's a lot of volunteering opportunities. And then you can, if you have many children learning in your home, like I have 3 kids, you can encourage group learning, especially if their age is close to each other. Community is another place where social development can be achieved. So Madrasa, Al-Asar, mosque, library, park, field trips, these are all places where they meet other children, meet diverse age groups. And then, of course, there is family and friends and masjid, where they will meet. You don't socially develop just by meeting your own age people. You socially develop by meeting a diverse cohort of people and learning from different people, different things. Now, the benefits of homeschooling, studies have shown that homeschooling is very good for individualized attention. There is no peer pressure and bullying and all the traumas associated with that. Parents become role models, not TikTok dances. Alhamdulillah. There is custom socialization, and that's what we talked in the previous slide. Like wherever you will choose where they will go to get their socialization. And time for self-discovery. A lot of kids who go to school are so busy. They come home, they have homework, they've gone to school 8 hours, they come home, do homework, go to sleep. They don't get that time to just sit and discover more about themselves, which is very important in childhood, even in adulthood. The other benefits are empathy and emotional regulation. Actually, studies have shown homeschool kids are better with EQ and more empathetic. Maybe it's because they meet. That's me being told half an hour is up. So I don't know, Shalina, can I talk for another 5 minutes or no?
Yeah, 9:35 is when I have a hard stop. So yeah, 5 more minutes is good. Thank you.
No problem. So they have very, very good EQ. Maybe it's because they meet a wider range of ages and are expected to, gel with a wider range. Their confidence levels are higher. They are more adaptable. Again, this is because of the bigger age range that they meet. They have more initiative and leadership skills. They'll meet a lot more adults than children. So this also helps them develop that. And the risk of social anxiety usually comes from bullying in school. And because they don't have that, that's a good thing. Now, the challenges are there, of course, in socialization, and that is the limited peer interaction. If you live in faraway places or, not so close to a masjid or community, for example, there's the logistic barriers. Parental overload, with this, not a problem with the kid, that's a problem with mom and dad, whoever is doing the teaching. Then the kids often feel they feel different, and my kids tell me that, especially the girls feel this a lot. It seems they'll say, I feel weird. Everybody says that they're in school, and then they ask me, which school are you in, and I don't know what to say. So they do feel this, but you have to just talk it out with them, and you can figure out what they can say. There's a lack of competitive exposure, which is very important for children, the competition. And because they don't meet as wide a range of, races and people, they will have less diverse social norms who they have to navigate. So this will be an issue. And the strategies to improve this is that you enroll them in sports and extracurricular, of course, so that will help them get the diverse social norms. You encourage independence in them. You schedule me time with them for yourself. I mean, this is for the parental overload. You schedule me time for yourself. You can set some social goals for your child and for yourself. For you, because you want your me time and you want some social, not just sit with your own kids all day long. And for your children, they should have some social goals so they can learn to be more social and not have that limited interaction. Participate in competitions is a good thing. And then be their friends. Be not friend. I don't like that word. A parent is not a friend, but a parent should be approachable in the sense that they shouldn't be afraid to come and talk to you. Be keen observers of them. You can pick up their moods and what was different today, about them, and then talk to them. Be there for them. There was there's this slide and this slide, so I'll just do it really quickly. Some people asked me about curriculum and programs that I used. I would suggest, if you want to see what textbooks to use, search Ontario Trillium List. This is the Ontario government list of what books they are using in 2025. And what books they don't use any longer, and when the 2025 books will not be used any longer later on. So you can go online. I do look at the Trillium list for language arts, and I do follow it. And you can even go online and look on. I don't buy from Amazon, for example, but I do go on Amazon and check what other people are saying, what textbooks they use. And this was one way I found a really good reading program for my kid. For online, there's free and there's paid. So paid programs like CTC Math, IXL, Discovery K to 12, Math Mammoth, Code Spark. This is for teaching coding skills. My Academy is a whole school and it's in the States, and it teaches all the languages around there. And there are others like that. There's Prodigy English, Prodigy Math, there's Singapore Math, there's many. Oh my God. And then there's Kissa Kids for an Islamic curriculum. They have their Islamic textbooks for free downloads on their site. This is Shia, by the way. Then there's the free stuff, which is Khan Academy, TVO Learn, PVO Kids, Discovery K to 12. There's so many. These are just some. This just, and just by doing a Google search, you'll come up with so many. Learning shows, number blocks, alpha blocks. I use a lot of this for science, for example. Number blocks when they were young, I used a lot of this to teach multiplication, for example. Then the Kissa Kids Wonder Time show is amazing. They really love the Muharram and Ramadan shows, but these are from COVID time. They don't do them anymore, but it's still good to show them. And now they have Alumni Tales. The same Kissa Kids has that too. For magazines, there's Chirp, Chickadee, Owl, Wild, National Geographic, Brainspace. Noor is a Sunni Muslim one. I don't know of any Shia one. There are very many virtual schools. These are all paid. VS, my kid has gone to VS for one subject in grade 8, just so she would learn how to go to an online school. There's Bright Minds, there's online school, Blight Academy, link on learning, lots and options. I believe Wise Schools is also doing, they give an entire curriculum, the entire school year curriculum, and then you can homeschool it, but this is a paid version. So that's a Shia one, and so that's an option. So a really useful website is ontariohomeschool.org for parents who homeschool. Any question you have, any forms you need to fill, you'll find that on the Ontario Homeschool side. There's a paid version and there's a free, some stuff is free there too. And then the Trillium list, the stuff I talked about, the textbooks, that's on trilliumlist.ca. And lastly, I had 2 other questions. How do I manage time? So the teaching is done in 2 to 3 hours. So if you're a stay-at-home mom, it's really easy. It's slightly harder if you work remote or you have a home-based business, then it's a bit harder. So you have to be a bit good at managing time then. And you need to find some time for yourselves, obviously. So this is where grandparents and aunties and good friends come in handy. Don't take on too much. This is something that a lot of homeschooling people who first start out make a mistake on that. And then the feeling guilty, oh my God, I didn't finish the curriculum. It's the end of the year. What do I do? Nothing. It's okay. You can continue. You can do an extra half an hour. You can do an extra month in summer. So don't worry about it. You have 8 years to teach K to 6, and then you have 8 years. So 6th grade kindergarten, JK, SK, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is 8 years to teach that. Grade 7 and 8. Be very careful, teach them how to transition to high school, be a bit more serious there, more subjects added, teach them geography and history, and be vigilant about that. It's good for them to learn to do more, but it's not necessary again. Only the language and the math is the one that's foundational. And I'm telling you this as a teacher, so take my word for it. How to create a flexible homeschool routine there was somebody who asked that. My 5-year-old, 2.5-year-old, while having a newborn is really hard. So when I had a newborn and an older one, I sent my older one to a neighbor who was also homeschooling to learn for 2 years because I could not have a newborn and be teaching. It was really, really hard. I was struggling. So if you have that option, but I don't understand why you would have to teach a 2.5-year-old. They're just 2.5. They learn by playing. If you want ideas on what kind of play-based learning to do, look into the Montessori learning. It will give you ideas. It's more practical stuff. And then once you've done it for like a few months, you will know how to do it at home without even buying Montessori stuff, which can get to be expensive. So I'm done. I had an example of a story to show you, but I think we are out of time. So I will let you take over.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sajida. You've shared so much information with us, so much wonderful information. You make it sound so easy and you make it so interesting, mashallah. We're going to open up, at this point, we're going to open up to questions. And so feel free to just raise your hand, unmute, and then you can ask your question or just give a feedback. But this is your time to share or speak up. And while Sajida, you were presenting, there was a couple questions in regards to whether we will be sharing this information. So we will be putting it on our website. So, and I did put it on the chat, academyofislam.com. So that's the Academy of Learning Islam Ali website. Under the homeschooling tab, we will have this information for you. So there is a question here. Sajida, thank you for this webinar. It's really helpful and empowering. How do you ensure that your older kids don't overshadow your younger kids? Example, answer their questions, take over a task versus helping them through them.
So I don't teach them together. So my 7 and 9-year-old is not taught together. Unless it's like Islamic studies, which can be taught together. It's Quran, when they're memorizing a surah, can be taught together. But I teach them separate because they're at separate levels for language and math. So there's not a lot of academic subjects that I teach them together. They are 18 months apart, and you would think they would be taught, but not a lot of it is taught. So usually you just manage this by giving them, okay, can you give me, Ali, it's your turn, can you give me an answer? Hadi, it's your turn. And then if Ali were to just take over Hadi's time, say thank you, Ali, but can Hadi answer? So make sure you tell them that it's okay to tell them that. Sometimes the show off comes in. The older one will say, oh, I did a better job, and so you teach them, you talk to them and discuss how this is not the way to do it, and you could have said this instead.
One of the things I really connected while you were presenting, Sajida, is you said you don't have to know everything you teach. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yes, thank you for asking. So, for example, a lot of people are scared to teach math. I was afraid to teach math when I first became a teacher, even though I was supposed to teach it. And when I started teaching math, I realized that I was a better math teacher, even though my degree was in English, being an English teacher for the older grades. And that was because I struggled in math as a kid. So because I struggled, I really put effort into teaching it. And because I put effort, I enjoyed it more. And I thought I was a better teacher in it. But post-COVID, you guys are very lucky you lived post-COVID, because a lot of stuff is available online. So for example, Khan Academy is completely free lessons online in math. So if you don't know something, tell your kid, I don't know. I don't remember, it's too long ago, or I went to school in a different country, they said stuff differently there. So let's look at it together, and then we learn together, and then I will go through the lesson together with you. For math, for example, though, even though my younger kids are taught math with a textbook, I've also signed them up for CTC math, which is actually based in Australia, but they have a North American version too. And the North American CTC math is the program that is the American standards, not Canadian. But American Canadian standards are very similar. They might teach different things in different years, but by the time you get to grade 8, you've learned everything anyway. So my kids all are on CTC. You can buy a homeschool, like you can buy 5 accounts and pay once. Like, it's a one fee covers 5 kids. Whether you have 5 kids or one kid doesn't matter. So all of them have CTC, and sometimes even though, for example, my Ali finished his entire math textbook, but I still told him go do CTC math during summer, or when I'm teaching, how do you go do CTC math? So there's a lot of stuff. Like I gave you the example, I didn't know if it was really hieroglyphics or no when they asked me that question. So we did our research together. You're teaching them research skills that way. It's actually good for you to show them, I don't know. And there are many things in life you won't know. So let's go learn together and I'll teach you how we can look.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or feedback? One thing I forgot to do in the beginning was introduce to you the host of the program. So there's four of us in the core group. Myself, Shalina Dallo, and we have the Director of Academy of Learning Islam, Daira Bai Kasmali, and Sakina Karmali, as well as Sajida Somji. So um, there's four of us, and I see there's a hand up here. Zara, go right ahead. You can just unmute yourself. You're still muted. Rabbi, maybe you can unmute her. Zara, okay?
Hi, sorry, it worked. I don't know why. I
Oh,
was having trouble unmuting myself.
there you go.
Okay. So I had two questions. My first one was, I know how you mentioned that it's not really healthy to compare kids, which I completely agree. But I also just wanted your input on what do you think about like having kids participate in like Ramadan competitions, right? Like Quran memorization or hits, because I can see the value in it, but I'm also not sure like if it would affect kids. Like I have younger kids, so I'm just trying to like navigate if it's something that should be like encouraging them and motivating them, or something to stay away from. And my second question is, I know you mentioned like different sets of curriculums that we can use. Which one would you like say aligns most with like Islamic teachings? Especially if you have like this, let's say different age kids you're going to homeschool. Something that would align with Islam, but then also like be on like a easier approach to take with different kids who might have different styles of learning. Thank you.
Okay, so I don't teach Islam per se because I teach Islam all the time in the sense that we're literally talking about Islam almost whenever there's a teaching moment available. And then I tell them Islamic stories, of course, but like it's so if you're talking about a curriculum that's very much got the Islam built into it, then I would look into the Kisa Kids, but it's pretty expensive. I was watching a show by a homeschool mom, and she said there's a Christian one, the good and the beautiful. It's a Christian curriculum. It's free, by the way. I checked. All their ebooks are free, except they're all in beautifully well illustrated, good color. So printing them will cost you an arm and a leg. So they have a version where you can buy the printed version because I guess it's mass produced, so it's cheaper. It's Christian based, but it doesn't have a lot of info about like they won't Jesus base it. It's more God based. So the program I was watching was a Sunni homeschooler, and they said they use this one, and then they mold it to bring more Islam into it, and they were saying good stuff about it. When I looked into it, it didn't suit my style of teaching. I prefer picking up the textbooks that are taught in school for language arts, and I'm a teacher, so I guess maybe it comes a bit easier to me. And I teach those textbooks, and then for reading and writing, I'll just teach them things like modeled writing. We'll talk about books, and then Islam is peppered into everything. So maybe I don't know, Sakina Karim, you want to answer Karmali? You want to answer this? I don't know if you've done it before. If anybody has an answer and can help, chip in. But don't specifically teach a Shia-based curriculum. I teach language, math, and then a lot of Islamic studies is taught all the time through storytelling. And so, for example, I have a tafsir channel. So when I make my tafsir videos, my kids are sitting there watching, and I tell them, "Can you watch this tafsir and tell me, did you understand it?" And then they give me pointers on, "Oh, mom, this was too hard. Mom, this was too easy." But I'm thinking in my head, "Yes, listen, because you're learning." So it's a lot of that kind of stuff. I write, for example, curriculum for madrasa, and they're right there writing it. And when I finish writing the lesson, I ask them, I read to them what I wrote, and I say, "Can you tell me, do you think the kids will understand it?" So they're learning from that. So that's the way I do it. I don't know if I answered your question. I'm sorry.
But that totally makes sense. Incorporating Islam in day to day.
Okay, we'll take one more question. Fatma has her hand up, so we'll end the program or the webinar after this question. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. So, sorry, it's not really a question. I just wanted to just suggest that if anybody's looking to print curriculums, like you mentioned, the good and the beautiful might be hard to print for some people. We invested in an Epsom EcoTank printer last year, and it's turned out to be a godsend, honestly. You just, fill up the ink and you can literally print thousands of pages at a fraction of the cost. So that's helped us a lot with printing curriculum when we need hard copies. We are using the good and the beautiful for maths right now, not so much for language, and it's worked really well with my little one and my older one. So just an input for anybody who's looking for the good and the beautiful curriculum, for maths at least, and for printing options.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, so with that, we're going to end today's program. Thank you so much for joining, and we will be adding more updates and keep you informed about our next programs coming up. Thank you so much, and Hafiz.